a warm welcome to this guided sleep story, where you will take a magical journey to visit the hidden valley of the elves. Take a moment to get yourself comfortable wherever you are, and allow your eyes to close when you feel ready. Before the story begins, we will do a short breathing exercise called 4-7-8, which will help to relax your body and quiet your mind. Don't worry if you can't reach the numbers. Just do what feels comfortable tonight. So, breathe in through your nose to a count of 4. Hold it for 7. And release through the mouth for 8. Imagine that you are breathing out all of your worries and tension. Again, that's in for 4. Hold for 7. And release for 8. Just let all of it go. Continue to breathe in this way and allow your body to become heavier with each out-breath. And now, allow your breathing to return to its natural rhythm. Let your mind soften and your imagination come alive as we prepare to take an enchanting journey to the last homely house of the elves. You find yourself waking up in your 4-poster bed, wrapped in a thick white duvet that gives off a soothing warmth. You are in your house under the hill in the corners of the Shire. The sun has not risen yet, but outside the round porthole window you see trees and bushes swaying in the breeze, and the soft, cool light of the morning drifts into your room. You stumble out of bed, dress yourself for the day ahead, and wander into the kitchen. The wooden floor has a warmth of its own, which sends a soft vibration through the soles of your feet. In the kitchen, you take the cast iron kettle, fill it with water, and place it on the rack above the cobbled stone fire. You take a small blue mug from the shelf and put your favourite tea leaves into a tiny sieve that you rest on top of the mug. Through the open window, you notice a few stray leaves and branches from your garden are beginning to creep inside. You take your garden scissors from the drawer and trim back the imposing greenery. From your garden, the smell of roses and lavender drifts into the kitchen, coupled with the cool morning breeze. Behind you, the water begins to bubble away, and you take the nearest tea towel, remove the pot from the stove, and pour it through the tea leaves into your mug. On the table, you spot the wicker basket filled with the remaining strawberries from yesterday's foraging. You carry the basket in one hand and your freshly made tea in the other as you wander down the tube-like corridor and out of your perfectly round front door into the crisp morning air. Your garden is full of beautiful spring flowers of many colours that sit in flower beds around the edge of your garden, surrounded by a brown picket fence, and the apple tree sits on your right. You walk over to the wooden table and chair on your left and place down your strawberries and your tea. You notice in the apple tree a baby red squirrel carefully walking along a thin branch. As you approach the tree, the tiny squirrel seems to lose its balance and is now holding on tight to the branch as its legs dangle below. Instantly, you place your hand under the animal and, in complete trust, the squirrel lets go and lands safely in your palm. The tiny red ball of fluff looks up at you, its nose twitching ever so slightly as it sniffs its new surroundings. You reach your free hand into your pocket and remove a few nuts and seeds that you normally leave for the birds and begin to feed the squirrel in your hand. As you take a seat, you place the squirrel at the other side of the table and pour a few more seeds into a small pile in front of it. The sun begins to rise over the distant hills now, and a warm golden light washes over you. You gaze across the eternal green in front of you, with the rolling hills filled with many cottages underneath, and a crystal blue river running through the middle. As you sip your morning tea and devour the sweet strawberries, the squirrel sits nearby, nibbling on their seeds, as you both enjoy the sunrise. The world is beginning to wake up, and you can see a few halflings ploughing in the fields or planting new vegetables. Ponies and sheep roam the grassier fields nearby, and birds of many colours sweep across the morning sky. In the distance, you hear the sound of a horse and cart approaching, and the faint sound of someone humming a happy tune. Faint though it may be, you recognize the voice immediately, and a smile creeps across your face. As the brown and white horse comes into view, you see the old wizard perched in the cart, wearing his long bluey-grey robe with specks of dirt along the bottom, and a big pointy hat, looking like the pilgrim he is so often called. His thick grey beard flows down his chest, and he puffs on a long wooden pipe. At first, the wizard does not seem to notice you, but then, under the brim of his hat, you see his piercing blue eyes flick to meet yours, and he gives you a mischievous wink with the twitch of a smile. He asks in an airy sort of way if you are ready to leave. You stand up with a smile, run indoors, and grab your rucksack before heading back outside and proudly holding it up for the wizard. He nods his head in approval and gestures for you to pop it in the cart next to his staff. You look back to the table where your new friend is watching you curiously. You take another handful of seeds and place them in front of the squirrel to let them know that they are welcome in your garden any time. You stroke the top of their head and they sniff your hand affectionately before they are distracted by this second breakfast in front of them. You place a small cloak over your shoulders, close your door, and pick 2 of the ripest apples from the tree. You throw one to the wizard and jump into the cart. His tall but gentle figure looms over you, and you feel safe in his presence. The wizard gives a low whistle to the horse, and you set off down the gravel track road in front of you as you begin your adventure. As you pass by a few halflings, some bid you a wonderful adventure, and some look at the wizard disapprovingly, for it is seen as unnatural for Shire dwellers to venture beyond their own borders. But you are no ordinary Shire dweller. You are a friend of elves, men, dwarves, halfling and wizards alike, and you have many adventures coming your way. You cross over the wooden bridge on the borders of your homeland and journey into the wild. The rolling hills of home grow faint on the horizon, and the world is ahead of you. You ride through a small woodland filled with tiny streams, where the water runs steadily through a jagged labyrinth of rock. You arrive at a small town fortified by a wooden wall and filled with thatched roofs, old stonework, and smoky chimneys protruding over the top of the wall. It is an old town, and used as a place of trade for surrounding villages, or a place of rest for many a wandering traveller. As you ride around the borders of the town and further on your adventure, the wizard tells you of his journey to meet you, and how in the midst of a thunderstorm he took shelter in an old inn within these walls. In that moment, you begin to feel the early droplets of rain. The wizard casts a quick spell, and a small canopy extends from the back of the cart all the way over your head, keeping you warm and dry. Your journey takes you over a series of flat meadows in yellow and green squares, dotted with tall oak trees standing proudly in the vast eternal space. It is only just full morning now, and the sun stands low but bright, casting long shadows across the meadows as the rain continues to tap against the canopy above you. The wizard puffs upon his pipe, never removing it from his lips, as you watch the smoke seep out the corners of his mouth in a silky ripple. He tilts his head to you, and with a smile as warm as the sun, he tells you just how well you are looking, and that he is delighted to be with you today. His presence is a comfort like nothing else. It's as if he gives off a very gentle glow, and when he places a comforting hand on your shoulder, there is a warmth that radiates from him. This warmth from the wizard begins to soothe and relax your shoulders before it spreads up into your neck and head, and all the way down through your body into the tips of your toes. You feel yourself becoming heavier, and your mind becomes clear and free from all concerns. There is a new peace within you now, and you feel completely safe. You think you may have fallen into a short sleep, because when you open your eyes, what stands before you now are large snow-capped mountains a little way off in the distance, and you are riding along a grassy plain filled with many rocks. Some are only small, but others tower high above you and seem to have hidden nooks and crannies. The wizard tells you that there are many secret paths along this road, and he just needs to find the right one. You arrive at a clearing surrounded by 3 huge rock formations, whose distance to each other forms a perfect triangle. You begin to sense something very different about the air around you. It has become light and clear, as if full of magic and wonder. You share a look with the wizard, and the twinkle in his eye suggests what you already know. This is the place. With a soft, low voice, the wizard casts a spell with his staff. The rock in front of you seems to have separated in half, creating a doorway through the middle. At the end of this doorway is a warm yellow light, and it seems to call out for you to journey forward, elf friends, for you are most welcome here. The horse sets off without a prompt from the wizard, for it is as eager as you to visit this place. And the cart begins to roll through the doorway and into the narrow corridor between tall white rocks that is filled with an enchanting air. You are entering a secret world, hidden away from all evil, and open only to those who bring with them peace. As you reach the end of the white corridor, the world opens up in front of you once again. But now what lies before you is a golden valley and a hidden elven sanctuary. There are beautiful white buildings nestled in the valley, with pointed roofs that are held up by twirling pillars of pure white. And in between the buildings are patches of emerald green trees with flowers in all the colours of the rainbow. Tall, delicate towers of silvery white stand above the rest, keeping watch over this sacred land. The elven palace of white sits in the middle of the mountain valley, halfway up the rock face, and through the middle runs a crystal blue waterfall which forks down the rest of the valley. All of this is surrounded by steep cliffs that are filled with thick trees and smaller waterfalls. Down a short path in front of you, there is an arched stone bridge that leads to the heart of the last homely house of the elves. The sunlight beams across in a perfect spotlight on the small kingdom, as if this place was made to harness all of nature's beauty. A place of wonder and heavenly purity, where no evil has ever been, nor will ever be. A land of peace, of light, and of hope. You have left the cart now, and two tall elves with kind angelic faces take the wizard's horse off to their stable, where you can be sure it will receive the kindest treatment and the tastiest food a horse could wish for. The wizard leads you over the stone bridge, and as you look to your left, you see another waterfall in the distance, nestled between two green hills and backed by a golden sunlight. At the entrance to this land, underneath a silvery white archway, stands the Elven Lord, with a thin crown upon his head, and a long ruby robe that sits effortlessly on his shoulders and stops just above the ground. Next to him is his daughter, who is the lady of the land and has the warmest smile of all the elves. A white headpiece weaves through her thick black hair that is almost the length of her glowing silver dress, which the wizard tells you is made from fallen stardust. Of course, you have been here before, and you are a most welcome friend. The Lord takes your hand in his, and you each give a short bow as he welcomes you to his home. The lady of the land gives an infectious laugh, showing her delight at seeing you again. She holds out her arms to you, and you sink into her warm embrace. She is a very dear friend to you, and gives you the feeling of being protected, like an eternal guardian who will always be there for you. You arrive first at a small garden where the grass is almost gold and warm under your feet. There are thin white trees with colourful fruit hanging freely. The lady tells you this is the sacred fruit of her people and can only be eaten on the Elven New Year. There is a small fountain of carved stone, filled with silvery blue water. the Lord takes out a small chalice, dips it in the water, and hands it to you. The healing waters of his people, he tells you, will cleanse your mind of any troubling thoughts. As you drink the enchanted water, you feel your mind becoming clear, as all of your worries are washed away from you. They fade out of sight and can no longer be seen. It is a mesmerizing garden, full of powerful enchantments that allow you to feel completely safe. For this land knows no evil, and the light of the elves is eternal and strong. You are guided up large stone steps by the Lord and Lady, and they tell you that you are free to explore to your heart's content as they head off to speak with the wizard. But the lady reminds you that there will be a banquet later on, which you are not to miss. You arrive at large but delicate doors with beautiful carvings as old as the first age of this world. You come to a beautiful hall of silver and white. Large windows cover the ceiling, and it almost feels like you are still outside as the natural light of the world beams down, and you see the tops of the trees swaying above you. A single torch stands proudly in the middle. The flames flicker in varying colors of red, blue, and orange, and provides a gentle warmth for the entire room. There are perfectly curved archways that line the walls, and nestled inside are many alcoves. Some are filled with beautiful and mysterious plants of blue, yellow, or purple, and others are filled with displays of the finest elven armor, gold-plated, strong but delicate. Cloaks of blue, red, or green hang from the shoulders, and a beautifully carved helmet rests on top. You pass one or two tall, enchanting elves, some of whom recognize you and give you a warm smile and a low bow. You see in front of you a large semicircle of white bookshelves, illuminated by beams of sunlight, where specks of dust dance in the gold. As you delicately remove one of the books, you blow the thin layer of dust from the cover. The writing is a language you do not recognize, but as you flick carefully through the old parchment, you see enchanting runes and symbols that were written and created by a race of elves long departed from this world. There are even drawings of old maps which date back over 4,000 years. You hold a magical and sacred history in the palm of your hand. You place the book back on the shelf and move on through a small wooden door that leads to a courtyard outside. The courtyard is lined with grey stone and white columns. Vines with flowers spiral round the columns next to you and spread up onto the open canopy of the courtyard. There are small trees in large pots that contain tiny purple fruit and give off a wonderful smell. The courtyard feels older than other parts of this house and full of memory. You wander up a few stone steps where there seems to be a platform at the top. And as you get closer, you realize it is something else entirely. It is a statue of a cloaked elven priest holding a shield across both of his arms with a grey cloth laid over it. And on the shield there is a sword that has been broken into many fragments. The hilt is on the right, and the shattered blade is placed in neat formation across the shield. Behind you is a huge tapestry depicting the King of Men slaying the mightiest of foes and freeing the world from its evil. The king holds in his hand the same sword that now rests upon the shield. The sword is too precious to risk touching, and you wander back through the courtyard and up a thin spiral staircase with decorative carvings on the wall. Pictures of the elves awakening the trees of old and singing to the stars. You arrive at the top of the stairs and head through an open stone archway onto a small balcony. There is a cream-coloured floor of warm stones, and the railing is pure white. In front of you is the most breathtaking sight of all. Illuminated by the early sunset, 2 golden and red waterfalls flow seamlessly through the emerald green valley and into the huge lake below, topped by the snow-capped mountains in the distance. The wizard appears on your right as if by magic, and he joins you as you both lean on the railing and gaze out over the enchanting kingdom of white gold. The trees are grouped together with multicoloured leaves of green, brown, orange, and yellow. Evening birds glide across the valley, a silhouette of freedom. You are witnessing the unlimited beauty of this world, and as you take a deep breath of this magical elven air, you remind yourself that there will always be good on this earth, and there will always be hope. On another balcony to your left, you see and hear one or two elves playing instruments together, creating a sunset symphony. As you enjoy this perfect palace of peace, nestled in the evergreen mountains and forests, you turn to the wizard and thank him for bringing you back here. He looks at you with a twinkle in his eye and reminds you that you deserve this time of rest. You watch in amazement as the wizard, still puffing on his pipe, begins to blow peculiar and magical clouds of smoke. First, there is a series of dark grey rings, each one smaller than the last, and they pass through each other like waves of silk. The wizard then blows the shape of a magical horse galloping through the rings. Next comes a mighty dragon of smoke, which almost glows red on its belly as it circles above you, although it is no bigger than your hand. And finally, the wizard blows a delicate sailing boat that seems to be perfectly on top of the lake, and you watch it sail away into the golden red horizon, where the bottom of the valleys meet in the middle. You realize the air has become still now, and nighttime is almost upon you. The wizard places a hand on your shoulder and leads you to the right through an open-top corridor of white archways with a canopy of leaves above you. You round a corner and come at last to a white banquet hall overlooking the beautiful scenery and lit by soft yellow candles and the last light of the setting sun. The table is covered with a freshly made silk cloth and decorated with the finest silverware. There are silver jugs with long, thin spouts filled with water or wine from the finest elven vineyards. The lady of the house gives you an eager smile, and she pats the chair next to her, inviting you to join her. As you take a seat, she pours you a drink and asks you to tell her all about your day. In that moment, an elf places in front of you a silver tray covered with a lid. As they lift the lid, you are met with a beautiful smell, and you see that the elves have prepared your favorite dish, cooked to perfection. At the head of the table, the elven lord gives you a warm, mischievous smile and asks if you really thought they would forget about their special guest tonight. Musicians sit nearby and play a relaxing tune as the banquet begins. As you join in with the feasting, you take your time with your meal and savor every bite of this wonderful banquet. This enchanting and magical place is perfect for any occasion. You can host a merry feast with singing and dancing. You can enjoy hundreds of fantastical stories by a warm fire that have been passed down for thousands of years. Or you can sit in peace and quiet and read or write or simply be with yourself. The lady of the house leans over to you as if to confide in you a secret. Instead, you are met with a flutter of joy as she tells you that if you would like to, you can come and live in this hidden valley and become a permanent resident of the last homely house. There will always be a warm and cozy bed waiting for you here whenever you are ready. With all of the beautiful distractions around you, you hadn't realized that the sun has completely set and the night descends upon the house. Outside the open archways, you can see the waterfalls and the lake glistening with the light of the moon. The tables are cleared as the banquet comes to an end, and you decide to take a walk in the moonlight. You thank your hosts for a wonderful dinner and wander out of the banquet hall into the still of the night. You walk along a curved and open platform that slopes very gently down to the ground, where you see scattered leaves shuffling in the soft breeze. As you reach the ground, you can see right across the lake and deep into the valley. The eternal waterfalls continue to flow, and the moon glows high in the sky, casting a healing light upon you. Surrounding the moon is a glitter of stars. They sparkle at different moments, giving a ripple effect to the silvery sky. To your right, you spot the stable, where many of the horses are already asleep. You decide to visit your old friend who brought you here today. As you approach the stable, the wizard's horse sees you coming and begins to patter their feet excitedly. You place a hand on the horse's nose and softly stroke their mane. You can tell that they have been well looked after by the elves, pampered even, as you notice their hair has been freshly cleaned, and their mane is as smooth as silk. You remember that the apple you picked this morning is still in your pocket, and you offer it to the horse with an open palm. The horse enjoys their late-night treat, and once they are finished, they stroke their head against your shoulder, and you give the horse a warm embrace. You bid them a good night and begin to wander back to the house. On your left, you see an archway made of small white branches and decorated with bright blue flowers. Underneath the archway stands the lady of the last homely house, giving you a comforting smile. She offers you a hand and invites you into her garden of starlight, where you can relax and fall asleep underneath the even star. You follow the lady down the thin grassy path in her secret garden. There are small blossom trees full of a mismatch of white and pink flowers. As you walk through the garden, the grass underneath you is as soft as a cloud, and it begins to envelop your feet and send a beautiful warmth through your body. As you come to an open clearing lit by the moon, you see a solitary chair that has been carved into white stone and filled with blankets and cushions. Bright green bushes house many colourful flowers and berries and give the garden a beautiful outline, where in the middle sits a peaceful pond with one or two lily pads circling in the water. You take a seat and lie back in the chair as you gaze up at the night. Your vision is circled by the tops of the trees, and above you is the silver light of the even star. It stands proud in the middle of the purple and black, shining pure and bright. It is surrounded by a swirling white glitter, and you can imagine that the even star might be singing its very own song and providing the music of the stars. The elves of old used to worship the stars, the lady tells you, and her people still do. They are seen as the sacred light of the Eldar. They carry wisdom, courage, memory, and hope. They are the givers of life, and they are the key to understanding and connecting to this beautiful world. The stars, she tells you, hold all the answers. The lady is standing by the pond, staring up to the night. and is surrounded by a white aura. One or two stars are beginning to float down very slowly into the garden. As the stars get nearer, they break up into tiny particles of white dust, and this dust begins to surround the magical elf maiden. It is a heavenly thing to witness. The lady seems to catch the stardust in her hands, and she walks over to where you are resting. As she passes you, she lets the stardust trickle over your body, and you begin to feel all of your muscles relax. Your feet become soft and heavy. Your ankles become loose. The stardust softens your calves and relaxes your knees. Your thighs become warm and heavy, free from all tension. Your stomach muscles soften and release. The muscles in your back are unraveling as any tension is melted away. As the stardust lands on your ribcage, you feel a new openness in your chest. Your shoulders and neck are letting go of all control as you feel your whole body become heavy. You have become one with the elven stars. The lady takes the remaining stardust and begins to sprinkle it over your head. All the muscles in your face become soft and open. Then you begin to feel any remaining thoughts leave your mind. The stars have taken your thoughts for the night, and you can be free now. You can let go of everything. You feel yourself being cleansed by the even star. the lady tells you to rest here tonight, that she and the stars will watch over you. You are safe here in this land, and you are protected in this garden of glitter. The light of the even star will guide your dreams tonight, and you will heal your body, your mind, and your soul. You are free to let go and to be one with the magical powers of the elves and the stars.